Welcome to episode 161 of Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon.
And I'm Matthew Kay.
And this show is brought to you by Brickmania.com. This week, get 15% off all orders at Brickmania.com, and I'll make sure to put a link to their website in the description below if you want to check that out and check out all the cool products they have to offer. And we'd like to thank John Matz for joining us on the show tonight. You might know him from his website, buildlikeaboss.com. He is 20 years old, and he is a member of Bionolog and Wamalug. So it's great to have you on the show, John.
Great to be here.
And if you want to start off by just telling us a little bit about your website, buildlikeaboss.com, what kind of content you put up there and that type of thing.
Okay, well, it started off kind of like, it's supposed to be a more educational version, kind of a more constructive version of the Brothers Brick. So we're like more analytical. So it's a good place to go if you really want to improve. But now we've moved away from doing just mock features, which is mostly what Brothers Brick does, and moved more towards doing tutorials and that kind of thing, because that's what people really liked, apparently.
And so this is almost like a LEGO fan knowledge base, like just a repository of the accumulated knowledge of the LEGO fan community. Is that the kind of end? Yeah,
it like formalizes a lot of things that are kind of floating around, but the only way to learn them is to like browse Flickr for 3 years otherwise. So you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble.
Distill it all down into nice digestible stuff.
Yeah, it's like people were like, "What is color blocking?" It's a totally legitimate question. Who has explained color blocking? But we've explained color blocking.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's a really neat idea. Now, is this just you kind of doing the solo, writing all this stuff, or do you have some contributors and people that do it with you?
Lego Nardo, David Hensel. He's doing it with me in a limited capacity. I'm kind of looking for more people, but I don't know. I'm bringing it back now. It's been dead for a while. I'm kind of relaunching it, so I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen as far as other contributors.
Interesting.
And something that was a really cool article that you just, I think, might have put up today, if I'm not mistaken, on the site, was a kind of how-to guide to going to LEGO conventions. And it was a really great read and well worth it for people, even if you've been to a lot of conventions, well worth kind of going over some of the basics of, packing and things like that. What inspired you to write this article, and where'd you get some of the information from? Just your own experience, or how did that work?
Well, I just got back from Brickworld basically last week. I know you guys were there. And, it was a great convention, and I don't know if I was on the plane back or what, but I was like, this would be a good article because it's its own animal going to a LEGO convention. There's nothing quite like it. So there's a lot of very specific tips that I can offer. I've been to probably I'd say 6 major conventions and a lot of other random stuff. I've been to Scouting for Bricks, which is totally a legitimate convention.
Totally a legitimate.
Yeah. And yeah, I was
it's
like,
a beautiful post because it's a post about conventions, and so it's about conventions. It's not about how Brick Fair 2014 was so awesome because X happened. It's just conventions are like this, and conventions can be like this or like that, and you can do this or that, and so it's sort of meta, I guess, in all the right ways.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it can apply to any convention. It probably applies to European conventions and stuff as well. I've never been to them. But yeah, I talked to Simon Liu. He's been to a million conventions, and I've been to enough to do it. But I hope it's very helpful. I'm planning on reviewing it myself because I'm like, wow, I'm giving some really good advice here, which I don't necessarily follow.
I should pay attention to what I'm writing here.
Yeah. I'm like, dang, I actually know how to do this, even if I'm not doing it properly. So yeah, next time I fly to a convention, or even for Brick Fair, which is coming up, I will review it carefully.
Make sure you're following your own advice. Always a good thing to keep in mind.
Yes. Now I've documented it, so I can go back and look at it. But yeah, Simon Liu is like an expert. He's like the Zen master of going to conventions, in a way.
Oh yeah.
So he sent me like this list of fixes. I ran the whole article past him, but then at the bottom he just had this block of like just generic advice for conventions, which was really kind of priceless. And I was like, how can I work this in? So I just put a paragraph like Simon's advice.
Very nice. Just quote him directly, right?
Yeah, so that's what I did. I'm like, okay, this is a bunch of random facts from Simon Liu, which are probably more helpful than the rest of the article.
Awesome.
Awesome. One of my favorite tips in there is you're talking about the traveling to conventions and the different ways you travel, and one of the first options is the Abner style option. So
I could just as well call it the Matthew Kay style, right?
Or the Joshua Hanlon style.
Yeah, you don't just traveling light, going to conventions, but yeah.
I go to conventions, but I don't bring Lego.
Yeah, I mean that's totally legitimate. Like, as I'm not even. Yeah, that's something that I would definitely do if I had a little more money and a little fewer mocks. I'd just go to every convention basically and just chill out.
I think Abner is doing what everyone wants to do.
Yeah, I do like a modified Abner style, like the next one down, which is like easy mode. That's what I do.
And so we've mentioned this Abner guy, and if anyone in the LEGO community has not heard of Abner yet, I guess first off, where have you been? But for those not in the know, fill in the story of Mr. Abner Finley. Like, what is this whole, like, what does he do? Like, what do I do sometimes? Elaborate, I guess.
Okay, so Abner Finley basically goes to every convention. He was telling me, like it was a big confession of his that he didn't get to Brick Fair, New Jersey last year. And I was like, yeah, that's really frustrating. But he goes to every convention, doesn't bring any mocks. He just flies there as cheaply as he can, I believe, and stays at the hotel for a few days and then flies out. And I'm like, I mean, how can you argue with that? He just goes and stays in a nice hotel with a bunch of Lego people, looks at a bunch of mocks, and leaves. He has no responsibilities. He has no concerns, really. He's just, it's like just pure kind of enjoyment, really.
Yeah, he's not on the coordinator panel for this, or he has no seminars to give.
I don't think so. No.
He's just there, and he's smiling, and he's happy, and he's nice to talk to,
and everyone knows him. Like it's like Abner, yeah, Abner.
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny mentioning that he doesn't really build it all. That they announced at the end of Brickworld Chicago this year that next year at the charity auction for Brickworld Chicago they're having a photo of Abner building, a very rare photo of him building will be up for auction at Brickworld Chicago. So.
That sounds extremely valuable to a collector.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see what that ends up selling for.
Crazy.
But yeah,
well, now that we've talked about some of the present time, build like a boss stuff, all this great stuff going on now, let's jump back into the past and talk about the first time that you ever touched or recall touching or interacting with in any other way a Lego brick.
Okay, so I have two older brothers, and they had Legos. So basically, when I was born, probably it would be that time. I'd play with Duplos and build like. I basically did Nick Jensen's weapons.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
I basically would build Nick Jensen weapons out of Duplo as a child.
Okay.
They weren't quite as functional or quite as elegant, but that's what I was trying to do. Then you run around the house with them, they break apart, you build them again. It was great.
Sure.
But then really Bionicle was what kind of hooked me in permanently. And it was really cool because like my older brothers were into it. But I could still, even if I couldn't build the sets, I could still play with the guys, and they weren't too fragile. So I was only 6 years old when I got my first Bionicle set. I think it was on my 6th birthday, and yeah, it was such an awesome thing that it was great as a little kid because yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic. So you older siblings, and they're playing when you're kind of just there, and you can kind of. Sort of, feed off of their collection a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome.
And like anything that they're doing is automatically cooler, right? Than anything that the kids younger than me are doing. So they're like, yeah, Bionicle's cool, and I'm like, it actually is cool, and it was a nice thing to get into because it was kind of for an older audience, so I could age into it, and yeah, so that's pretty cool. Since then, my oldest brother doesn't play with Lego at all. My older brother doesn't go to conventions or anything, so it's they kind of brought me in and then left, and then I just went deeper and deeper into Lego.
And so, what really drove you to kind of sort of maybe seek out other like Lego fans or people that were way too into it, like yourself? What was it? Was there one moment?
It was bzpower.com. So, for those of you who don't know, that's the Bionicle fan site, and it was really big back in 2007 or 2006 or whatever. And I started going on there and posting mocks in the contest because I was really attracted by the competitive nature of it, and I was like, okay, now I need to be like the best Bionicle builder. So I'd enter almost every BBC contest, and so then I went to Brick Fair, which is like 20 minutes from my house, and that combination of things really led me pretty deep into the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets some good contests going on. I think a lot of people find that kind of keeps them building, and like you said, even if you get into the more competitive side of it, it keeps it interesting and the drive going to build more.
Right. So yeah, that's like this. If it weren't for contests, I don't know that I would ever build nearly as many things as I have, because I'll like build for a contest. I'm like, okay, I can build this in 10 days, but then in the next 6 months, I won't build anything unless there's another cool contest.
Sure. And so it kind of just drives you, gives you like a sort of a deliverable, something you can.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having a job, kind of. It's like, okay, here's your deadline, here's your theme, here are your opponents.
And here's what you get if you win. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the biggie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually did win BBC contests, and then I of course got tired of it because I'd already won.
It loses its appeal after winning a few.
Yeah, I'm like super frustrated until I win. Then I win, and I'm like, I don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The Macathlon on mock pages, that was a big one that kind of ironically leveraged me into the Flickr community more, because I had to find people for my team, my Macathlon team. So I went and I asked like Lego Junkie and eventually Brick Thing and some other people who now are like my best friends in the Lego community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that kind of brought you into the more Flickr side then. And if you want to explain a little bit about what the Macathlon is for people who might not be familiar and some of what your team did.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't just throw around terms like that. Jargon. The Macathlon is a team building event, and in that way it's pretty unusual. Where for 30 days your team tries to build for 30 categories. You're judged on every category, and however your points line up in the end versus the other teams, you win or lose. So I think it was 2011 when I first did the Macathlon, and my team was my brother, Lego Junkie, Archive, and Theo. I don't remember what's this? Titolian, kind of a name from the past. And we got in. I think it was 3rd place the first year. So that was like kind of a taste of victory, because there were like 30 teams or 40 teams, and we were just kids, and competing against like Nanan and Tyler and people like that, like big shots. So then I did it again the next year, and every year I'd play with similar people and switch out, and it's like the most bonding experience ever. It's like boot camp of Lego practically, because every day you need to build something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's amazing. I love following when that goes on, the builds coming out of there. So many awesome builders involved with that, and then just incredible builds that come out. And like you said, a lot of them at once, because you've got to be building something new almost every day.
It's extreme.
Mm-hmm. So is that's like 1 month a year, did you say? Then when does that usually take place?
Yes, March.
Okay.
March. So you have to sign up in February. So, yeah, that's an awesome contest. Then there's the Mock Olympics in, I think, October or September, but the good thing about the Macathlon is it is, as far as I know, the only team building event. So in all the other ones you're isolated, but in that one you have the whole team dynamic, which I really like.
Yeah, the collective creativity of a couple different people,
yes,
right? As opposed to just thou self.
You have to work together. That's the important thing.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Collaboration.
So then, after you kind of did you did a lot of Bionicle builds, you were saying after what's kind of your main genre you build in now? Still a lot of Bionicle type builds, or what do you see yourself as a builder today?
I kind of see myself as like homeless, basically. I told this. I don't know if it was Matt. I told it to someone. They're like, "So what genre do you build?" And I'm like, "I'm homeless." I end up building a lot of space, but I think about building a lot of other themes, and I hope to build a lot of other themes. Bionicle's still really fun, but it became like really kind of hard for me because I had so much. It became stressful for me because I was trying to like make it the best, and I could see all the flaws and everything. So space is more fun for me now.
And is space fun because it is so open-ended? Is that what you're getting at there?
What?
Is space fun because it is kind of open-ended in terms of...
It's abstract. You can build a geometric shape and put jets on the back and put a little classic space guy in it, and then it's a spaceship. So I always built like techniques were a big thing for me, and techniques are often come up with these weird abstract kind of assemblies, which are useless except in space almost because they don't look like anything on Earth. So.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and I think you do a really good job with that. And I wanted to make sure we covered a few of your builds here. The first one that I thought was really neat, and I think one that you kind of say is your favorite over the years. If you want to talk a little bit about why this is your favorite. This is your Condor build. So if you want to talk about this build and what makes it stand out from the rest of yours.
It's okay. So I've been developing all these techniques for years, basically, and I hadn't used any of them because I sit there and I fiddle with pieces, but I don't necessarily finish mocks or post mocks. So this was a big deal for me because I used like 5 or 6 techniques that I developed and never used that I felt had a lot of potential. So if you look at like the wings, they're the thinnest possible wings. They're actually thinner than you can possibly do without techniques. If you look at the alternate pictures in the set, because I used a 2x2 round tile, the old style one, and there's this technique where a larger square tile will fit into the anti-stud of the 2x2 round tile. And I link to the technique in the comments.
We'll make sure to include photos of the build in the description of the interview here, so people, if you aren't familiar with this build, you can check that out.
I'm sure everyone's familiar with it.
Obviously, but 1 or 2 people that might not have run across it just in case.
Anyway, I felt it really came together, and it used a lot of stuff I've been working on. Yeah, but I love the color scheme. I just love
the color scheme I thought was really neat too. What kind of led you in that direction? Just kind of the pieces you had on hand, or?
Quite the opposite. I'd been taking graphic design classes. I learned all this like color theory stuff, all this very kind of technical stuff. So I was like, okay, magenta and dark green contrast well. They're like a perfect contrast for each other. So I went and I bought magenta pieces because I didn't have any, and used dark green and do that together.
Okay, so kind of applying some more, technical color skills, that type of thing, to some of your builds.
That's something I need to write a tutorial on because I feel like it's kind of a cheap shot, actually, way of making your mocks look good.
Like, okay. Just pick out a color wheel and get some applied knowledge, and then just sort of apply that knowledge, or something like that.
Something like that.
Very nice.
Yeah. So like it's formulaic, so you can just get the formula, apply the formula, build it, and it will look better than otherwise. Or that's the idea, at least.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and it definitely is something that can add a lot to your build if you choose cool colors that really help each other out and may make the build overall look a lot cooler.
Yeah. I look at other people's builds sometimes. I'm like, okay, if you just change these 2 colors, the shape is awesome, the construction is awesome, but the colors are a separate thing, and it's easy to mess that up.
And I think when I look at a lot of builders that are using color really brilliantly like that, and by brilliantly I mean I guess they're following the rules. But you see really great contrasts, great colors playing off colors. I start looking into their background, or maybe I talk to them at a convention or something, and wouldn't you know, there's either I took a graphic design class, or well, my undergrad is in fine arts, or you know what I mean. There's always this kind of So there's something to say for to acquire that knowledge, and a great place to apply it for Lego building.
Yes, cross-disciplinary stuff is very helpful in Lego.
Very, very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of graphic designers running around in the Lego community.
For sure, and that would be a great article, yeah, if you ever have time. I think a lot of people, I know I would enjoy reading that article, I'm sure a lot of other people would as well, so you got to make sure you get that up on the website sometime soon.
Definitely will.
And another cool build I wanted to make sure we covered of yours, a more recent build, is Event Horizon, and this is another one we were just talking about. Color scheme has some really interesting colors in it, like the black mixed with like the bright pink colors.
Yeah.
So, what was any particular inspiration behind this build, or contest or anything like that for this?
Yes, this is a good example of something that I built because I had a good reason to. It's part of the Starfighter telephone game, which I'm sure you guys know, but in case anybody doesn't know, it's a game where one person builds a starfighter, mails it physically to the next person who builds a starfighter based off of it, mails it on to the next person, and so on. So it's like you get an evolution of starfighters. So this was based on a starfighter by Curtis, and I took it and just kind of did it my way, and it ended up looking very different. It's magenta again. Magenta is an awesome Lego color.
Oh yeah, and I think it works really well with it. Any particular techniques that you thought worked really well with this build, or that you wanted to try out?
Just the sticker techniques, the stickering on the wings and stuff. That's taken basically whole and entire from Jacob Forsfeller's tutorial that he posted on Build Like a Boss. It was like a 3-part stickering tutorial, and I didn't know. I'd never used stickers before, basically. So I'm like, yeah, this is a really good post. But I use stickers now because of that.
You're smoking your own stash there a little bit, aren't you?
A little bit.
Very nice.
Yeah, so and that you can see these, kind of on the wings and things, like you said, the stickers look really nice, and I think that's something that, a lot of builders hear stickers and they're like, oh, you don't want to put those on, no use for them. But as I'm sure, I haven't had a chance to read Jacob's article that you mentioned, but I'm sure he points out a lot of good uses for them in there.
Yeah. I personally attended Brick Universe 2015 in lovely Raleigh, North Carolina, and Jacob was fortunate enough to be there, and he gave a wonderful, wonderful stickering seminar. And so it was basically the video / in-person incarnation of the stickering tutorial that he had in, the Build Like a Boss blog. So Jacob really knows his stuff. I can vouch for that.
Yes, he's the man, especially when it comes to stickers.
Like no one else.
But yeah, that's the good thing. When Build Like a Boss was going strong back in the fall, I was learning a lot from it because these other people, they have very different skills than I do. So post and I'd be like, wow, that's awesome. Now I can use that.
Very, very cool.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the final builds I wanted to make sure we talked about here was your build. I think it's called Zugzwang. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you pronounce Zugzwang. Okay.
I believe it's pronounced Zugzwang, but my German is non-existent. So.
So this is a little different than the last couple of builds we talked about. One interesting thing you did with this, I believe, was this is one of the build you live streamed actually with Jacob. We were just talking about did you do this entire build in the live stream or just part of it? How did that work?
I did almost all of it, but the finishing touches, like the stickers and some of the front stuff and like structural things, I did afterwards. But I did, maybe 80-90% of it on stream. I was surprised at how it came out because it's like a cage match. Basically, you're just thrown in there, and you can either deliver or not deliver.
Or just cry endlessly. Very nice. Another build I really want to take the time to talk about is your Vorpal Vector breakdown. I don't want to talk about the actual photo of the build. I just want to talk about this breakdown shot. Very, very interesting because you start to see the components of the build itself. So talk about the value add of breaking down your mock for I guess sharing purposes. What's the value of that?
That's one of the best things. It's showing your work and explaining what you're doing because that's what really advances the art of mocking, because someone looks at the completed thing and you can't tell what happened. It's like looking at a completed building. Okay, well, I don't know exactly how you started or what the design was like, but if you break it down, if you give instructions, people can really see how it came to life.
So it's sort of giving people a peek into the creation to see what went on inside there.
Right. It's like otherwise you're just looking at like a piece of fine art, and you're like, you see the totally finished, polished product. You can't. It's very hard to work backwards and see how it was created.
Totally.
But yeah, with this mock, I was just playing with techniques. I've kind of tried to stop using techniques, so this was fun for me because I just allowed myself to use a lot of techniques which are not that structurally sound or practical, but it was very fun. Though I tried to use more structurally sound techniques. There are quite a few of them. It was playing Art of Techniques mostly.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's always cool, try out new techniques, whatever, even if they aren't, to stay together the best or whatever, just trying new things out and builds like that. And then when you can post a tutorial like that, it is really nice. I think you help out a lot of, especially new builders who might be looking for tips like that. The same type of people that would read, like, the convention article and things like of that nature that can really get help from that if they're new to the community.
Right, and it functions as instructions, so they could just build a copy of it and have a physical version if they wanted to. They'd get a lot out of that, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the reverse engineering contest that Ryan does.
Yeah, definitely something like that. That's another really cool contest.
A wonderful contest, which we were fortunate enough to sponsor, right, Josh?
Yeah, that's true. So we
nice.
We were able to sponsor the main prize for that contest. So we try to encourage community activities like that because it is really cool. It gets people building and things. So always love to see new contests popping up like that.
And then what ended up happening? What was it, like a 13-way tie? I think this year. So then Ryan ended up cannibalizing the bird set for his own purposes, and then taking the effective value, I guess, of the bird set and going out and getting engraved bricks for everyone that won the contest or something like that. So it was very interesting, but nonetheless, awesome.
Sounds like a Ryan type of move.
I just wish I had sent him 13 bird sets. Oh well.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan's a friend of mine. I've done contests with him and stuff in the past.
And this is Ryan Howard, LDM, we're talking about. And I believe if you look back in the Beyond the Brick archives, there is a lovely, I want to say audio-only interview with him.
Yeah, this would be way back in the archives. We did get a chance to interview Ryan. So, yeah, another great talented builder there.
Nice.
Immense.
So we've covered some of your current builds here and some of your past builds. Got anything big planned for the future or any contests or anything like that coming up that you plan to participate in?
Well, I'm not sure if this will actually come to fruition, but I'm planning on doing an open collaboration at Brick Fair, Virginia, where I have a table where the kids can touch the mocks, pick them up and play with them.
Whoa.
That's like not done at conventions.
I know, that's like a major problem for people, but I just made this thing called the gear ball. It's somewhere in my stream. And it's just a ball of gears where you can pick it up and you turn the crank and all the gears turn. So I always put it on the table and I put a little sign next to it like pick me up and play with me. And people do it and they really like it. And I was like, okay, so what if I could have a whole table of things like this? I've been meaning to do it for a while and I think this year I'll actually make it happen. But I need a lot of people with very sturdy mocks that they don't care too much about to offer them up.
And so I remember at Brickworld this year, I don't know if you had there was certainly a lot of creations in that expo hall, but there was one. It was an interactive robot that played what was
Tic-tac-toe.
it? Tic-tac-toe. It played you in Tic-tac-toe.
Oh, nice.
So there was
That's
like a little.
kind of...
Do you remember that?
I missed that. I don't know.
I missed it too.
It wasn't a real huge build, but yeah, it was really cool. You could sit there and place, they use like the little balls for the pieces, and you would play against the robot, and it was really interesting how it worked.
Nice.
Yeah, I walked past it like the whole convention, and then on like a Sunday morning or Saturday night or something, I was like, what is this? And ended up passing it, but it had like a nice little divot in the stanchions, towards the table.
Nice. See, that's exactly the kind of thing that I want. I want like a table with stations going in and that kind of thing.
And then just off the top of my head, I don't know if you're familiar with a man named Daniel Pecora. He runs a Lego Model of the Day blog, the Minicon, other kinds of. Well, Danny has a really wonderful. It's like a pneumatic-driven, like robotic walker. Have you seen it before? Once again, another interactive. I think people do have interactive mocks. It's like they're just not.
So like they need to be pulled together.
Exactly.
Because whenever like I put the sign there, so the kid reads the sign, picks it up, and then his mom says like, "Put that down. You're not allowed to touch anything here." So if you had a place with clear signage and a bunch of stuff together, it would be much easier for people to understand.
Totally, and maybe someone to supervise it, and make people not steal it and stuff. So
a nice bottle of hand sanitizer.
That too, yes, exactly. Yeah, brilliant idea. I look forward to seeing that come to fruition.
Yes, it should.
Mm-hmm. I know another thing that some builders do to maybe not necessarily encourage people to pick up their builds, but at least make it so little kids can see it easier. Is if you remember the big giant mech layout that was at Brickworld Chicago, they kind of put theirs on a lot lower tables so that they do that on purpose so that kids can kind of see it and interact a little bit easier with it that way, so that they don't look, if it's a small kid, they aren't looking way up at the creations on the table.
Yeah, that's true. I like that kind of thing a lot, because there are many different heights of people who come to the conventions, and I always think about how if you have a wide table, the stuff, and you fill the whole table, the stuff in the back people can't see very well. So like at BrickCon, I know people will have like a tiered stack, so the stuff in front is on one level. It's on like the base table level. Then they have a box, another level of box on that, and then a third tier. So then it's like a kind of an amphitheater type of structure.
That makes sense.
If I ever have like 100 mocks going to a convention, that's what I'll do.
Vertical space.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's very cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. It'd be awesome to see if you could put something together like that at Brick Fair. I think it'd be really cool for kids to interact with that.
Yeah, should be good.
And then, so you mentioned Brick Fair Virginia you'll be at later this year. Any other shows or conventions you hope to make it to?
The only other really possible one is Brick Fair New Jersey, because I can get on a bus, go to New York City, take the train there. It's not too hard. But considering what I spent on Brick World and time constraints, it's probably not going to happen. So Brick Fair Virginia is the main one.
Understandable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that one of you guys will probably be there.
Brick Fair New Jersey? I don't know. The problem is that there are just now so many, literally so many conventions that you could, like Abner, go to one every weekend. So yeah, I don't know. New Jersey did look very, very nice from the photos I saw. So it definitely merits a visit. Did you enjoy your time there?
Yes, I went last year, and it was fun. I'd never been to that scale of a convention before.
Okay.
It was the first year of it, so what I really wanted to do was go to a convention in its first year. And there was a pretty good turnout. It was kind of fun because there was a lot of Halloween stuff. It was Halloween weekend. It was nice. It was kind of relaxed.
So you had a more intimate sort of atmosphere, not as hustle-bustle as the Brick Worlds and fairs and cons of the world?
Yeah, it's like, who cares? It's more relaxed. So it's like, ending ceremonies will be at this time, but they might be 20 minutes late. It doesn't really matter. They gave out good swag because there weren't that many people to give stuff to. You got to really hang out with people there. Like, your time was not split between 100 different people, so you could kind of get to know people better. It was good.
Very nice, very nice. I went to Alabama myself for the first year this year. Not the first year of the convention, obviously, just my first time going to Brick Fair Alabama. It was a wonderful experience, those smaller brick fairs.
Yeah. I was talking to someone who went there, and he said that on Sunday there were a bunch of people coming in like dressed up for church because it's pretty southern.
Yes, totally. So, yeah, it was like
all
the best part is at noon it was empty because church, and then like coming later in the day, like 1 or 2 was like packed. Whereas there's usually like a line of people at the door on Sunday in Virginia or anywhere else. So I don't know. It was definitely a different atmosphere. But yeah, smaller conventions, awesome. Totally worth the time to go to one. Now talk about BrickCon just for a little bit. I like everyone to talk about BrickCon and just share the awesomeness of BrickCon. We can get it all out there in the open.
Despite the fact that you've never been to BrickCon.
I've never been to BrickCon. I like to bring on the awesome.
We live our experience through talking to people who've been there.
Yes. How awesome was BrickCon, John?
It's vicarious. Okay. I went to BrickCon, I guess it was 2013 BrickCon. And it was pretty awesome. I'd never flown on a plane before, so it was a pretty good adventure for me. And I was meeting people from online who I'd never met before. It was a big deal. It's funny that the level of building is very high there. So me as like the crazy analytical person that I am, I'm like, oh yeah, this is much better because the people here know how to build better. But it's like super. There are a lot of establishment type people there. There's so many good lugs in the California area. They all go to BrickCon because they've been going to BrickCon for 10 years. So they have massive displays, and there are just so many names that you know there. It's pretty legit.
So it's just immense because it just has this like the perpetual motion machine kind of a long-running con with lots of great talent and lots of stuff to build upon, all that stuff.
Yeah, but like the actual number of attendees is significantly smaller than Brick Fair. So you get kind of that effect of the more intimate convention, but the people there are pros. They're total pros. So you walk in and it's like, you're just surrounded by experts, basically.
So it's like almost if you just subtracted all the Matthew Kays and Joshua Hanlons of the Brick World convention population and just like copy-pasted Simon Liu, right?
Yeah, Simon Liu and Bruce Lowell and Ochre Jelly, just everyone there is like them. It's just them like duplicated a million times.
That's at once a beautiful and scary thought. So I don't know.
It is a little intimidating. There was like Bruce Lowell. I wanted to talk to Bruce Lowell, but I could never get up the nerve to talk to Bruce Lowell because I was like, I'm just going to be a fanboy, and I won't know what to say. And he was just right around there the entire convention, and I'm like, I never talked to him. The convention.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's
a story that you didn't talk to him. That's what I like to hear.
Yes. It's a story of something that didn't happen.
That's awesome. That is totally awesome. So let's continue the awesomeness. Are there any stories from any of your convention experiences that sort of stand out to you as something that's remarkable in any way?
There are a lot of stories. Okay, but one story that I really like because it's helpful is because it was like the beginning of a good thing, which is still going. Was at Brick Fair, Virginia last year. It was probably the best like actual convention I've ever been to. All my friends were there. Like Bricklink flew in from New Zealand, and we just sat at. We were doing a draft, and I was like, okay, so before we do the draft, why don't we do an alt build of these sets? And I was with 5 other people. It was Simon Liu was there, Jacob Forrestwiller was there, Logan was there, Lego Junkie was there. It was like very high level people who were just build constantly, so they're very experienced. And we built like the most impressive stuff ever, just out of the stupid Ninja Turtle set. And Logan built this awesome like Mechtober underwater mech type of thing. And I built some kind of spaceship or something, which I thought was very cool. And Lego Junkie built this super like polished tractor thing. It was amazing. Just the level of building in like an hour and a half with random parts was amazing. And then of course we drafted the set, and that's always fun.
A brilliant resolution with many photographs taken before said draft, I would assume.
Yeah, so we just build these things up. We tore all of them down except Logan's. Simon walked off with Logan's because he was kind of like in charge of the draft. And we got someone to judge. I think it was Guy Himber came in and judged for us and correctly, indisputably chose Logan's mock. And then we just took pictures of all the other ones, tore them down, and we didn't care at all. Like that's a good thing about Legos. You just build it and tear it down. It doesn't matter. Just use the pieces again.
Cannibalize the parts, take them home, do something even cooler. But wonderful, wonderful story of awesome stuff happening in like the confines of a set period of time, with a set period of pieces.
Right. Mm-hmm. So like we did 2 more of those. We did 2 alt build drafts. I only got to take part in the first one, but Simon Liu did 2 more of that style of thing at Brickworld. Just like, I mean, this goes back to the convention article. He said like, just start your own event, start your own game, and just do it. find people to play it and play it. So he did that twice with an all-build draft and built some good stuff.
And so it's an alt-build draft, so like the bastard child of alt-build and drafting. You draft, or you alt-build, and then you draft.
Yes.
What if you draft it and then you
draft.
alt-build it?
Yeah. The way we did it, I should probably explain like the actual process. The way we did it at Brick Fair was we each just opened up a set, dumped out all the parts, and built whatever we want, and we like traded pieces between the sets. So if I wanted like all the warning tiles or whatever, I could just take them all, or I could trade to people with them. So each of us had essentially approximately the parts from one Ninja Turtle set and built a mock out of it. And then once we were done, we lined them all up, took pictures, got someone to judge, extracted the best one, tore down all the weaker ones, and sorted them, which must have been more difficult since they weren't divided by bag. But then we just took the parts, sorted them out, and did a normal draft where each person picks a part in sequence.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool, and I know that that's something that I think people it seems to have become more popular at conventions in the last 2 or 3 years at least. I've noticed more is that more of these getting together with builders at conventions and doing builds there, because for a long time it's been just bring your build to convention display and then you go home. But like you said, you've got all these amazingly talented builders there. If you can sit and build with them in person, you might as well do that when you have the chance.
It's the best thing ever. That's kind of become my favorite thing about conventions is building on site. Like at Brickworld, the Classic Space collaboration. Simon came in, he brought a ton of Lego, and he's like, I need to populate this awesome display with Classic Space mocks. So, Carter and I and Lego Junkie and all these people sat down and just built spaceships for like a few hours. And so Carter and I collaborated on this cool little spaceship, and it sat on Simon's thing, and I guess Simon took it home. And it was a great time. And I've probably built more at conventions in the last 12 months than I've built in my own house. Because when I go to a convention, I just build for hours. There's nothing else to do.
Build with friends over the weekend.
Yeah, build with friends. That's the thing. It's kind of like an isolated hobby, right? You sit in your basement and build for like days, and then eventually post something up, and people on the internet approve of it or disapprove of it. When you go to a convention, you can build with other people. So it's like building while talking on Skype, which you can obviously do now to other Lego people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was someone at Brickworld toying around with the idea. I just remember hearing this over and over again. Was why isn't there a convention where the rule is that you just have to bring parts, but you can't actually bring mocks? Like you just have to roll in with enough parts to do cool things, and you just basically get there on site, and all you have are parts, and you have to like come up with something like that,
Yeah.
with the parts on hand. So maybe that's where we're heading here. We're gonna have like the week-long convention where the first 5 days are just building the display itself.
Well, I basically give Simon Liu full credit for that because he was the one who was always at conventions, and he would bring the brick.
Yeah.
So he'd be like, yeah, anyone can use it, I don't care. And then people would use it, of course. And without him, I don't know that there would be as much building at conventions as there is now.
Yeah, I think, definitely. Credit Simon for a lot, or all of it. Yeah, totally. Because he just rolls in with parts and...
Yeah, I'm not going to bring my collection here.
Mountains or something with, I bring Lego.
Yeah, exactly.
What a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's very generous, really, to bring and expose your collection like that. Because it would be hard for me to do that. I don't have that big of a collection.
Yeah, and he's sort of you're kind of an open book there. All your parts on the table.
Right. It's like they're gonna judge you based on this, and what if they scratch up a piece or something? It's
sure. Now I think we touched on this a little bit, somewhat, or maybe we haven't. But you do run a Bricklink store, right?
Yes, I do.
So talk about how this Bricklink store and running that Bricklink store sort of affects your hobby, and whether it's a positive or it's a negative.
It's definitely a positive just because it's like further exposure to Lego basically, and a different side of it. It's weird because we just uploaded 80,000 parts or so to the store today. It's a big upload.
Wow.
And yeah, so that kind of breaks your brain when you're dealing with that much Lego. And I'm like, my collection is what, 30,000 parts or something, and I just uploaded 80,000 in one go. You see people place massive orders in the store, and you're like, yeah. So it kind of makes you look at Lego differently. Like it's an art supply.
Yeah.
Like it's paint or pencils or paper or something. So it gets used up. You need massive amounts of it. You like consume it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is a nice perk, like that Event Horizon that we were talking about. The Starfighter telephone game, the way it works basically is you mean to work on it for 3 weeks, and eventually your guilt overtakes you. And in a single week, you have to like finish it. So if you have to wait for Bricklink orders, that really messes up the process. But for this, those magenta tiles, we had them in the basement. We just had a bag of them in our Bricklink store. So I just went, purchased them from the store, went down, picked it, and added it to my mock.
That's really cool.
Didn't have to wait 3 or 4 days or however long to get, a bag of 200 magenta tiles from Germany. It's like you just go in the basement and I have them.
That's crazy. And so this Bricklink store is something that you run with your siblings, correct?
Yes, my 2 brothers.
Okay.
And it's quite a bit of work to do.
And so then it's not really John's collection for sale as much as it is a separate assortment of parts and a separate business unit, or completely different, right?
It's a totally different entity. So like we don't deal in used parts at all. Deal only in new parts. And my collection is never really touches that. So it's very much an unrelated business to my hobby. Like my brother Tommy, he doesn't go to conventions. He doesn't watch Flickr or read the Brothers Brick, and that's fine. He doesn't need to because it's a business. So I'm kind of like the Lego expert, as it were, of the store. But for my brothers, it's just a business.
So do you have any largest, like, I know, actually maybe let's tackle this for concept first, I guess. You find that it can sort of justify like purchasing a large quantity of sets that maybe you want for your own sake, and it's sort of it's like an in to your hobbies or an out to your hobbies in, or did not really function as that for you?
It doesn't really, because like if we were to buy sets, I bought like 3 of those Laval speeder things when they were on sale, but there's no way we could use them for the Bricklink store because it would take too much time to part out 3 sets. So like unless we can get a bunch of sets, then it's not worth it. So when you're buying for the Bricklink store, you're very specifically buying for the Bricklink store with money like that's dedicated to there, and you have to do like bookkeeping and stuff. But it does give me a different perspective on like what are parts that are desirable and what are parts that are valuable. So like set drafts. Set drafts is a great cheap way to build your collection because you're essentially doing what a Bricklink store does in a micro way and paying the prices that the Bricklink store pays instead of the markup. So you're avoiding the markup and you're still getting nice sorted Lego.
You are the value add of breaking it down into constituent parts.
Exactly. You just eat that margin basically. So that's why I did you did 2 part drafts at Brickworld and I took part in both of them. And that's like you got them on sale as well, so I paid a pretty low price for some pretty decent parts.
Yeah, I passed on the 50% discount, all that good stuff. But yeah, once again, that was just one of those. I had sets, and like it was like the end of the day on Sunday, and I just did a draft, just randomly. So yeah, you can totally do that if you've never been to a Lego convention or you've been to one, but you just there's something I want to do. You should probably just do it. Just bring some stuff and make it happen. So awesome.
So I'd be interested then, a store of that size, you said you just uploaded 80,000 parts. How did that kind of first get going for you guys? You said you do it with a couple of your brothers. When did you first kind of have the idea for that and get that going?
Well, I was looking at Bricklink, and I've been talking to my friend, actually Ryan Howarder, we were talking to earlier. He runs a Bricklink store, and James Universe also has a Bricklink store. And I talked to James a decent amount. And I realized that this was like a real business that you could actually do and make money on. And I was showing my brother, like, look, so you part out the set, and the part out value is like, X amount higher than what you paid, so you could just do this forever and make a bunch of money. And he's like, okay, let's do this. So then we basically did it the same day. bought like tons of sets and set up tables in the basement and made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Just flip the switch, right?
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of what my brother does. He's an instigator, so he's like, okay, let's do this. When I'd be like, I don't know, I'll think about it for like 2 years. He's like, no, we're doing this today. And I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
How many years ago was that when you first started? Was that before Bricklink became more popular as it is today, or?
That was only last September.
Oh, okay, so
it's grown a lot
since then, yeah. Okay, very cool. Yeah, it's nice to see that you've been able to grow so big in that amount of time. So
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, very nice. And I'm sure that helps support your hobby, for the mocks you build and things like that as well.
Yes, yeah, and like if you're in the middle of a mock and you need some parts, like oh gosh, I ran out of brackets. We have bags of brackets downstairs. You can just go and pick one up and mark it out of the store. Go to town.
Wonderful. Now, are there any crazy stories with like parting out 100 copies of whatever set, and maybe something bad happens? Like a retailer will. I know Lego will impose limitations on the amount of product you can purchase, right?
Yes. I have been banned from Lego Shop & Home. My address has been banned for buying too much Lego, which, as anyone who's bought a ton of Lego from Shop & Home knows that's pretty difficult to do. But in terms of funny stories, we're buying Parisian restaurants to part out, and we bought 11 Parisian restaurants. We were trying to get the 12th one, and for some reason the shipping of the 12th one was delayed or whatever, so it took like an extra. It was going to take like an extra 5 days or so for it to get here. So we're like, okay, let's just dump out all the Parisian restaurants and then list them all up for sale. And if somebody buys them, we'll just sort those parts out. And the Parisian restaurant is like, I don't know how many different types of parts, but it's an incredibly complicated set. So we had just tables full of like trays. And you couldn't mix any trays together because then you'd be hopelessly lost. And we're just sorting through, like, we get an order. There's 12 different parts of the Parisian restaurant. So we need to go down there and find the different parts mixed into the different trays, sort them out, pack them up, and send them off. And it took like, 5 times longer than it should have. And we eventually got the 12th one, mixed it in, actually parted it out. But that was a big lesson that we learned, to not list up stuff that wasn't sorted yet.
Yeah, the cart before the horse, something like that.
Yes, it seemed like, it was a good experiment, because if you can list the stuff up faster, that's a big deal in terms of cash flow. So.
Yeah. It's almost like drop shipping, to a certain degree. I don't know.
Yeah, like drop shipping, where you list up like the Volkswagen camper van or something, Lego set, and then somebody buys it from you, so you just buy it from Shop & Home and ship it to their house.
Exactly. You take the markup. That's
you're like a bureaucrat basically. You don't actually touch any Lego. You don't do anything. It's pretty legit. I like it.
You're just a conniving son of a... Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're an entrepreneur. That's what we call them. Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
That's the nice word for that.
Yep.
But they are providing value, because Lego doesn't list stuff on eBay. So somebody who uses eBay for all of their purchases, they just search, camper van on eBay, and they don't care if they pay $5 more or whatever. Plus eBay's markup, so
30%
more. But
yeah.
But they don't care. So
yep,
they provided some kind of value there.
Totally.
They don't have giant margins either. It's just a nice way to make money without filling up your basement with Lego.
Yeah.
For sure. I think to finish it out for us tonight, then, do you have a dream Lego set or something you've always wanted Lego to make?
Well, Lego Portal, basically, hands down, would be my dream Lego set. I made along with Brick Thing and Lego Junkie, I worked on the Lego Portal project back in, I guess, 2012.
Okay, so you were involved with that.
Mm-hmm. So that went up on what was at the time Lego Kusu, and reached 10,000 votes in like 2 weeks, which was crazy, and went into review and went 9 steps into the process, and then eventually was shot down. So that was kind of like a tragedy, which I've not fully recovered from. But but Evan, Lego Junkie, has entirely recovered from it. So he posted up a new Portal project recently, which is much cleaner and based on all the lessons that we learned from the first one. And it has like 300 some supporters right now, and it's up there, and it could use some love.
Okay, so that's on Lego Ideas then?
Yeah, so basically Evan's GLaDOS set is pretty much my dream Lego set.
Okay, I'll make sure to include a link in the description to the project, so if people want to check that out, help give them some support over there. I'm sure they could use it.
Yes,
and
always.
I don't know if you can elaborate a bit. It'd be interesting to hear what are some of the lessons you guys learned from the first project, or maybe the feedback the Lego gave you on why they didn't end up turning the project into a set.
Yeah, well, the communication wasn't great, so I can't speak too well to the second one. But basically what happens is you get to a certain point, and at that point, some Lego set designer needs to kind of volunteer his time, or volunteer his efforts towards getting your thing made into a set. So like with the DeLorean, that was a big deal. There was some Lego designer that adopted it. And I think that what happened was basically no one adopted it, which is understandable. Obviously, they've got better things to do and don't like design other sets. But yeah, I think that's what happened. As far as lessons learned, in the first project we had like 3 different sets. So we were really proposing like a set line of Portal, which is not unreasonable, but it's not what the platform is made to handle.
Yeah.
The platform is made to handle one set. So when we got it through, Lego's brain broke when they looked at our thing because we had 3 different sets. So if you have one set, they look at that and they say, okay, DeLorean, I understand this. We've produced, thousands of cars. So it's just another car. But if they look at it and they see, okay, you got like a modular chamber, you got like a board game and a GLaDOS model, which of these you want to make into a set? And then we come back at them with like even more ideas. And yeah, it's not a great way to do product design, and it's not what Kustu is intended for. So this time in this project, Evan has just the GLaDOS model, which is much more reasonable.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So what you were putting together, like, if you were in Billund and you were on a design team and you needed to come up with a ton of ideas and develop a whole range of products, then you would have been, like, A-okay probably.
Yeah, exactly. If they said, okay, we want 14 Lego Portal sets, we'd be like, okay, call us tomorrow. We'll be
Yeah.
We've got them all designed already. We're all set to go.
Yeah, well, that's how Evan works. He's like, I'll basically, in 24 hours, he rebuilt his GLaDOS model. He's fast. He's really fast.
That's awesome. But now it's geared towards, what the platform does and what it does best.
And with Lego Dimensions coming out, Lego Dimensions has a whole Lego Portal set as part of it. So evidently Lego and Valve have some kind of IP agreement, which I'm sure can be expanded into making a standalone set. So that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe they did go as far as to secure that agreement with your initial project. And this is just pure speculation, hearsay, or whatever. But and then went out and this Lego Dimensions thing and so yes, maybe that paved the way for an easier development process if the second project were to be successful.
Yes. So and the way that I think of it is maybe the first Lego Portal project kind of led to Lego Dimensions, and then Lego Dimensions can lead to the second Portal project being successful. So then it's like the grandson of the original project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be awesome if it could work out that way. Yeah. So like I said, I'll make sure to put a link to the project in the description of this video. Definitely go over and take a minute to support that if you can. Help the project reach the votes it needs. So, yeah, that's really cool, and I think that wraps it up for us tonight, John. I really appreciate you joining us on the show. It was great talking with you, learning some more about your builds, and you want to tell people where the best place to keep up to date with you and what you're doing?
Build Like a Boss, probably, buildlikeaboss.com, or on Flickr. I'm John Matz on Flickr. Yeah, I'm going to start a Build Like a Boss Facebook page, so that should be linked from Build Like a Boss if you go there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Those are all good options. Flickr, if you want to follow my builds, Flickr is definitely the way to do it. If you want to follow like all my projects, then Build Like a Boss is going to be solid.
Definitely, and I'll make sure to put links in the description of the video to the websites you mentioned in the builds we talked about in this video as well, so that people can check all those out.
We mentioned a lot of stuff.
try to put in as much information as possible.
Every other thing we talked about.
I don't envy you that task of re-listening to this and digging up everyone's profile and everything.
Yeah, should be able to do it though. But yeah, it was great having you on the show, John. I really appreciate talking with you, and I guess we will see you at Brick Fair, Virginia here in not just a few weeks then.
Yes, definitely.
Should be really cool. So, and I'd encourage everyone out there to subscribe to the YouTube page here at Beyond the Brick. Make sure you keep up to date with all of our latest episodes here, and then all of the convention videos that we'll be posting. We've got a lot going up from Brick World Chicago right now, and then we'll have a lot from Brick Fair Virginia as well. So definitely keep an eye out for those videos. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon.